It is the farmer and all the land-based activities he does for himself. वो फसल भी है, वो हॉर्टिकल्चर भी है, लाइफ स्टॉक भी है, द पास्चर्स भी हैं, फॉरेस्ट भी हैं, दूसरी ऑफ फार्म एक्टिविटीज, उस घर में रहने के लिए जो कुछ भी करनी पड़ती हैं उसको. नाउ व्हाई दीज थिंग्स आई टेल यू, दैट्स द बेसिस, and I will speak on 3-4 things. One, the climate change in the Himalayas. And Himalayan agriculture is in transition. Is it only climate or is something else also? How important is climate to people over there? Then I'll take you around the study findings that I have, and will conclude with 3 things. Climate is not alone in impacting Himalayan agriculture. There are complexities, there are incapabilities of ours, and uncertainties and hopes too. I'm stuck down there. Sorry, that's the complication we have. Okay, climate change. I have to do 2 things. Climate change, as you understand, these are certain broad figures globally we throw. It's because of carbon dioxide. There are a few other gases also, but carbon dioxide is the main culprit. I've simplified it for the sake of general public. In a way, what is this whole climate change? We say it's a greenhouse effect of the carbon dioxide because it warms the temperature. What is the dimension of that? In simple terms, every year we human beings globally actually produce 37 billion tons of carbon dioxide, and largely because of anthropogenic contributions that's we throw into the atmosphere, out of which 17 billion tons is absorbed by the nature. It's your plants, it's other things, it's oceans, and also in the up in the atmosphere. But the leftover 18 billion tons is the gift that we have generated for ourselves. That's our problem. And this additional stock remains in the environment. That forms the greenhouse the tent, and that traps heat energy from the sun, and that's exactly which causes the warming. Now, many of you are told actually there is 1 ppm, 2 ppm things. What is this whole thing about? If you simplify it, 7.8 billion tons is equal to 1 ppm impact-wise. If that is the case, then there's another very interesting thing. If it is carbon dioxide produced by America, how does it matter to us? If it is Australia or China, should it bother us? Or then we say, कि भाई पेड़ लगाओ पहाड़ों पे और ग्लोबल वार्मिंग आपकी क्लाइमेट ठीक हो जाएगी. Is it right talk to talk about? जस्टिस राजीव जी, आपके लिए भी बड़ा जरूरी है कि यू वुड से कि जंगल लगाओ. लो मैं लोगों के कहता हूँ जंगल काटो खाओ, जितना कुछ करना चाहें आप कर सकते हैं. The reason is actually the carbon dioxide is such a strong kinetic force कि इस वक्त right now if there is a coal-fired power plant in Australia, within 7 days you will get that carbon dioxide in Chandigarh. It's such kinetic that it's simple. पानी जैसे flow करता है नदी, वो ऊपर नीचे नहीं होता, बराबर रहता है. Carbon dioxide in simple talk is has the same nature as the water. So it simplifies. And if we see this one, then there are only 5 countries who are actually doing everything. It's America, it's Russia, it's number 2 is Australia, then it is Russia, then China and India. Only if the 5 countries were to determine, okay, we will not do it, your 90% problem would be solved. If they are so much polluting and their whole world is suffering, including us, then why do mountain people should be blamed for something for the Himalayan glaciers? It's a gift of the global community, the impact that you are suffering in Chandigarh or Himalayas or anywhere else. Therefore, globally, everybody is responsible for managing it or not. I think it's something where we have gone wrong, Devendra ji, in passing on the buck. Sabhi ped lagao. By 1900, we had, these are figures that you need to keep in mind when I talk further. 280 ppm is a very safe level that we were happy with. But what has happened is by 2019, that it is today, the carbon dioxide content in the nature is already 400 ppm. Now I have given you the figures up there. You calculate 1 ppm is equal to 7.8 billion. You can already see how much billion tons of carbon dioxide we have already pumped into the atmosphere. This is to say here that even if you stop producing carbon dioxide today, you already have damaged the environment until 2050. मुझे नहीं लगता हम मेरे दौर के सारे लोग जा चुके हैं, उनके पीछे बच्चे हैं, वो जिएंगे तब. उसके बाद आप सोच लेना, हम लोगों के सोचने की जरूरत नहीं, हमने कर लिया अपना अंजाम. So Our worry is today that we should somehow stop this one reaching 560 ppm by, and our guess is the way it's progressing, it will happen by 2099. But the way we are progressing, it might happen by 2050. If that happens, 560 ppm is the scientifically calculated concentration of carbon dioxide in nature. If that happens, that day it would be a tipping point. Sudden changes would happen in everything, species, movements, everything. So globally the effort is इसको 500 से नीचे रखा जाए, 450 पर रखा जाए. This is the effort all about. And the temperature, if it is 560, will rise by 3 degrees centigrade. These are models and calculations. If there is 3 degrees centigrade rise in temperature globally, then that would be a very difficult place for us to think and do anything about it. This is about the carbon dioxide thing. Now I take you to the Himalayas. When we are talking about the Himalayan agriculture mountains, these are kind of figures, the people that we are talking about. There are 10 states, 104 districts, 496 towns, there are more than 70,000 villages. In these villages are also those villages who are now being emptied. There are almost 46 million people, 4.5 करोड़ से ऊपर लोग पहाड़ों में रहते हैं. इसमें से मैक्सिमम गांव में हैं, बाकी ऑलमोस्ट 3 करोड़ से ऊपर गांव में रहते हैं, 1 करोड़ के करीब टाउन्स में उसमें रहते हैं. बट द फ्लो ऑफ पीपल फ्रॉम रूरल टू अर्बन ऑल्सो इज विजिबल नाउ, वी सी दैट. एनीवे, with these basic figures, I take you to actually to the mountains. What's happening there? Mountain farmers in a warmer environment. I had a study done, and my study describes these things actually: Himalayan land and water stress on farmers, changing farmers' generation. I'll take these issues one by one, and then you would see it is about Manrega programs, biodiversity, what's happening. All these things are actually already compiled in a report, and that's with FAO right now would come as a publication. So rather than saying here, I will take you around. Quickly, the past 1901 to 2007, if you look at the trend of analysis of maximum temperature, this is just a glimpse. Significant increase in maximum temperature of April. That would mean it's April, but it could be further also. Then significant increase in minimum temperature in November, 100 years later. If that happens, then you also see that declining summer rainfall and increasing winter precipitation. This is very important. We had thought that गर्मियाँ ज़्यादा होंगी. It will not be true. सर्दियाँ ज़रा कंफर्टेबल होंगी. चंडीगढ़ वालों को स्वेटर नहीं पहननी पड़ेगी, पहाड़ वालों की हालत और ख़राब हो जाएगी. That's exactly the kind. But what does that mean to agriculture? Generally, scientists have formed a model that with increase in temperature, there would be decline in production. These are general models. But don't stick to those things. That's only one of the things, rice, wheat, able. But there are also areas that in the hills and mountains, things would be different. Then it's again rice production or finger millet. These are food grain crops. But there are also crops which would be benefited. Okay, let's come to the basic things. When climate change happens in the Himalayas, likely scenario predictions that we see are, it would be warmer winters, less snowfall, sometimes snow, like it would be a great year when you have snow, otherwise there would be a problem. Rainfall would be lesser, and we have already seen, I am from the mountains, and we have seen the winter period has shifted from original December to February, March. The real winter rains now come in March or February. It destabilizes whole sowings, and agriculturally it is disastrous. You have to be prepared for several months to sow the wheat. It is October or it is in November, it is December. For 4 months, 4 different types of wheat seeds we have to keep ready as scientists in agriculture university. You never know कब जैसे रेन आएगी फिर वो वाला बीज जाएगा. These are costs of hidden costs of climate change. Rainfall will be there. Plenty of rainfall will be there. This is a sum up of the study that we have now, results up to 2050. So at least you could be sure. There would be rainfall, but it would be very erratic. जब आपको चाहिए नहीं मिलेगी, जब नहीं चाहिए तब आएगी. Uncertain, and then long drought periods and fewer days of intense rainfall. the total amount of rain would come, but it would come in ways कि जब आई तो फिर बादल फटने वाली आई, जब नहीं आई तो नहीं आई, मर्जी है. So agriculturally both things are disastrous. When it doesn't come, you cannot sow. When it comes, it washes away everything. So that's exactly the problem that we are seeing. And also in mountains, it would not be uniform. Some areas will go dry. I'll show you down the road. Some areas will have excess rainfall. Overall, if we knew how to manage water, then probably in the Himalayas, agriculturally, we will not have problem. Our problem is we are simply not prepared. I'll show why we are not prepared. Himalayas will receive more precipitation actually in total, but unequal. Sorry. We will see expanding farming into higher altitudes. Many of you who have gone to Ladakh, if you had gone there 20 years ago, then things were different. Today they grow apples. The premium apple comes from Kinnaur and from Ladakh, and if you are in Ladakh, actually Lahore Spiti, Ladakh also, things are going higher. I've seen in China, long ago in 1990s, I used to go to Tibet Plateau. I've seen the style how global warming makes an impact. Every year 1 kilometer higher and higher into the mountains. That is the kind of impact warming makes in the mountain. There would be new agriculture areas. How long? That's a different issue. Greening of partial lands of cold, arid zones. In a short while, I'll show you the slides. I'll take you around the Himalaya. Water scarcity-led climate change. Sorry, it has to be this one. And then overall, new crops and crop combinations. Not because of climate change, but for other reasons I'll come. And declining farming in rain deficit areas would be there. Yeah. I have two things to make, so that's okay. Now I'll take you around a very interesting finding that's on apples. We made a study of how apple belt was moving because of global warming. Few things came up. The study was done in 2006, very interesting, and we concluded, it was me and my daughter and Kulu Valley, we concluded that with global warming, the apple belt is moving up. That's very true because they reached Lahore Spiti and there were no apples in the real apple belt. And traditionally apple belt moving upwards due to climate change. So people became richer. Those who were actually doing traditional farming became apple orchardists. Lower guys had the problem. So nomads became apple growers and apple growers became food growers. And then vegetable growers. I concluded that this is the kind of change that Rajiv ji would see. Technology that's coming up is actually going to make a major difference in managing climate change. Simply by 2018, we have a different perception now. Actually, nowadays, apple belt is expanding both ways. Certainly with technological intervention, low chilling varieties and how to manage apple crop well down below. Now, because of technology, apple belt is coming down, not only to the traditional area, but down. And because of climate change, it is going up both ways. So, technology would be a major factor in managing the kind of impact climate change will make. How much we are able to do that, that's a very different issue. There's another thing that technologically, now here you see the yellow ones is a traditional agriculture. Green one shows us if you were to do it in protected cultivation. These things came up after 2000 suddenly. So if we manage the environment, so in a protected cultivation, not only that production is more, but we can manage also the impacts of climate change, drought, and other things. It's a question of how we like to do it. Okay, now through the Himalayan realities. This is exactly what you see in the mountains what you see here is trees, some fields, and few other things. The economic impact is more important than the climate change over here. People's desire to change. This study that I conducted brought out few very interesting things. In areas like this, in villages like this, farmer has one problem, whole communities. The overall expenditure for livelihoods in the mountains, I think that correlates to your doubling the income of farmers. Minimum for a family of 5 to live, you would need 70,000 rupees. That's 70,000 up to 100,000 and 125 also somewhere. Minimum money for it's food, it's your clothing, it's your education, it's health, everything. But how much agriculture can give and food grain based thing, that is one of the reasons why food grains are no longer the kind of things that would be. This is Kashmir Valley. Very interesting. full of rice. But then rice is giving away to apples or anything else that's possible. One of our studies we conducted in Kashmir, very interesting. Why Kashmir farmers are no longer interested to grow rice? Because the economics of rice, despite the average national yields are lesser than what Kashmiris grow, very high yields. The economics is actually in deficit, so they are no longer interested to continue that one. It's giving way to cash crops. What's happening in the mountains? Areas like this. This is one of the villages in Himachal Pradesh, a complete maize wheat growing area, given way to orchards and vegetables. That's exactly the kind of thing. Economic prosperity. Himachal, in the whole of the Himalayan region, is the state which is showing the way that the economic change can sustain people over there, at least in this generation. What comes next is exactly what you have seen. I'll come to that later. This is the general scenario presently, that economic viability of farming is very, very important. If it is not there, then what would happen, that I will show. Also in the Himalayas, there are very specific niches. It's not only apples and vegetables. If we had something like this is, I have intentionally put it up, saffron crop in Kashmir. Many of you may not have seen. I was discussing with the Kashmir farmers actually, what would be the future of saffron. And we sat in the field. That was interesting. You would see here, income from food grains and cash crops. Whether it was 2004, it is 2012, or it is 20, the contribution income from cereals is very, very low. It's now vegetables and fruits. Vegetables and fruits are today ruling the economy of the Himalayas, and food grains are going down. So no amount of efforts would ever succeed. Why? In a short while, I'll tell that also. There's another thing happening, that this kind of crop livestock systems that were very dominant in Himalayas, because wonderful serene environment means support lands, forests, rangelands, they were very good. Two things happened here. Climate change brought obnoxious weeds, and they have become actually all greenish lost grass kind of situation. Obnoxious. Biological degradation is the word that's used for these things. So you will see a structural change in livestock, that it is more now apna ghar pe rakhne wala kaam, not open kind of thing. So policies and technology, two things really messed that up, and it's no longer there. It's declining very fast. Yet another thing, this is also very interesting. We think that high mountain area people are still living in the same kind of situation. They would like to stay like that. No, things are changing there also. The highest mountains where yak is there and yak herders are there, we call them nomadic pastoralism. This system is breaking down. It's breaking down fast. There's a picture from the last yak herds in Sikkim, and also similar kind of situation is in Ladakh. It's for a very different reason. I don't know why that's happening. Interestingly here, the climate is playing a positive role. Economics is playing a negative role. That's the reason. The economics of yak farming does not help people to remain intact with the same kind of system. Similarly, the economics of Pashmina goat farming in Ladakh region. These are Pashmina goats and sheep over there. People are there, but very interesting thing is happening. Pastoralists are, actual number of pastoralists are declining there. Number of sheep or goat may be the same, but the farmer who manages, interestingly, that is coming down. Reason? Harsher winters, harsher life, this kind of thing. But there is no policy intervention to make their life comfortable. It comes from there that if we don't give any attention to them, people will leave anyway, and that exactly, if you don't help, then people help themselves. This is happening in this area without government's help to live in harsher climates. You gave the Nordic story. It's happening in our area. They say, ठीक है, हम तो ले जाकर रहेंगे, ऐसी वैसी, इस पर्व में नहीं रहना हमने. Okay, this is another kind of thing. It's the same summer season. What's happening here is a contradiction, a paradox. Because of climate change, the pasture lands are becoming greener. So there is an opportunity for a very vibrant pastoral system. However, what is happening is quite the reverse. The pastoralists are coming down. As of now, they are selling all their flocks to one. So somebody having 100 goats is having now 400. So numbers may be same, but The danger is that the day the guy decides that I want to go, he sells it, and it would be 2 years of mutton and everything is gone. That also is happening. So this system, this way or that way, is actually dying down. And I have a quote, I do not know why I say that pastoralists and pastoralism, is it their evening? Will they see the morning tomorrow? I have no answers to that, because there is no right policy, there is no intervention to see that we maintain the diversity of agricultural systems or agro-ecosystems in the Himalayas. Very little attention. There's another reason also, aspirations, social change. The kids are going to school. These are those kids of the pastoralism. Education-led change. हमने नहीं पढ़ना है. The kids are very clear. Nomads are actually taking their herds around. Students are in, these students, there are nomadic schools, they are there. But then, if you ask any of them, well, हमने तो नहीं चलाना है ना वो. There also is when government helps. Now, here are two generations. This lady of yak herder lady and her daughter, she is already matric from a nomadic school. In between is the Ladakh Hill Development Counselor. If the government helps bring change, it's a positive change. Now, it's a positive or negative change, I leave it to you. But then this also, if you do not meet the socio-economic aspirations, then we are killing the systems. In a way, it's sad, it's bad, system is killing. But in another way, it is good, because we are helping our people actually find ways for a better living. This girl says, I need a job or a better way. I went into that also to see, can we transform these systems of yaks and Pashmina goats in ways that even educated guys would love. There are ways, it is possible. I have seen models in China, especially when to see there. But we have not helped our people. If we don't help bring a change for the better, then they will die down. Now, when they die down, this is a picture from Uttarakhand. What's happening? We said migrations. Why? If there are no interventions, nothing, then their excuses. Uttarakhand people have given a list of reasons why they want to leave. I've brought them in writing, actually. The report is out. People say, well, either there are services we are going down, but the major reason was that the infrastructure development in these areas is poor, its services, roads are not there, so 40% people said we are leaving for roads and education. If you combine education, roads, service, 80% is the reason. But there's also a very interesting reason that's come up, ecological imbalance. Wild animals are the reason for 15% people to leave agriculture in Uttarakhand. And it is not only Uttarakhand. If we take account of all the areas, it's Jammu area, in Kashmir, Himachal's lower area, whole Shivalik belt. Most of farmers are today affected by wild animals, basically monkeys. And I would like to a little bit elaborate here. Unless until we talk this thing in a real scientific sense, simple understanding, okay, this can be managed with technology, I think that is a very wrong philosophy. Agriculture will no longer be there in this lower area where there is great potential for agriculture because of climate, it's good. But then ecological imbalance, the wild animal domination and farmers opting to go out, because that's exactly where then economy, social change, education, opportunities play a role. People are not leaving because they would like to leave. They say circumstances have come like that. Governments of apathy, policy inertia or neglect, only making it technological. Imbalance is an ecological problem. Imbalance happens when ecology is disturbed. So today the numbers of animals have gone up, human beings have also gone up 72 times. Choice is for this august gathering of the governments, when both increase, carrying capacity is lesser than what it used to be for the Himalayas. 72 times लोग बढ़े, इतने times animal बढ़े, जगह 4 ही कमरे हैं, फैसला आपने करना कौन रहेगा? I will leave it to you. But definitely I would like to say that time has come to talk about find ecological solutions. And there is only one thing, that populations have to be balanced. You want to bring down people or you want to bring down animals. If you want to see that, go to Uttarakhand. This is the plight of Uttarakhand villages. Its latest update is 1700 villages and 3000 villages, less than 20% people. And when people leave, what happens? I'm not worried those who came out, they are living better somewhere else if they are living better. I am worried that a large part of agriculture system is being killed. Cropland is otherwise very scarce in mountains. Only 7 to 11% cropland area. The rest is otherwise wild. Now whole cropland area converting into wild. What we have is houses like these. Cropland is totally gone. And we have a new kind of system that's coming up. It's wildlife dominated. And tomorrow if somebody has to come, the problem here would be Japanese parliament has passed a very interesting law way back when people were migrating. They said crops we can actually save for 100 years. We have the technology. Forests can come anytime when we desire. Give the time, rest, and they come up. What does not come is the farmer and farmer's knowledge to do agriculture. If that dies down, then these areas will become permanent forests. I think in some of the areas in Indian Himalayas, we are moving towards that. And this I see is a challenge. How do we retain the agro-ecosystem for the larger welfare? You people, stakeholders who are in the plains, you will not get the mountain products if there were no mountain farmers. For people here, that should be the interest to learn why these things. So for mountain farmers, this is the challenge today. That's why it's more than climate changes, shrinking land holdings and the fate of family farms. The writing on the wall is very clear that it's not. The reason why the people from Shimla Hills are coming down is next generation cannot survive on the level of land that the land holding is there with the families. Aspirations of the younger generation are more than that. My father could live on the land, I would not be able. My sons would say, well, less than a hectare is no. This is the reason. I'll give you the data now. Cropland in mountains, 17%, and its diversification to non-agricultural purposes is going very fast. So in any case, we have 9 to 10% cropland left, farmland. Average cropland holdings less than 0.6 to 1 hectare. In today's context, there cannot be any person making a nice living for his family or for the total families on 1 hectare. Even if you grow gold, that is the reason why food grains are going out. All scientists, agriculture scientists are busy giving new varieties, pushing people to grow more yields for what? The economics is not really working. Helping farmers make a decent living on such small plots of farmland is actually the challenge, not really to grow more. Must be a technological institutional nightmare. Technologically today, it is possible. We have basket of technologies. Anything can happen. But simply, the size of the land is so little that with the present options, it's not possible to make farmers live there. So, declining food grain area and production, increasing high-value niche crops, farming, fruits, vegetables, flowers, whether they are ecologically desirable or not, that's a different issue. Increasing non-farm incomes of the households are very important. Dying traditional mountain agro-ecosystems and production system, this is the crux of the things that I wanted to do that. Now, this gives you a little bit of thing that there is hardly, a situation in mountains only less than, can you imagine, 2% families living totally on agriculture? Wherever in the plains you must be thinking all Pahadiyas are living very nicely on the farmland. They are not. They are actually surviving and most of them are making a living on other things. So, 70% geographic areas is rangelands, a huge area, then high nomads and gujar. There's another thing. The marginal mountain communities who are actually producing products for you from nowhere. It's living with the, in a way with the mountains, with the Bakarwals, Gujar, Gadis and Changpas. The policy fatigue, there is, you don't need technologies, but our institutional interventions are such that they are not really favoring these people. A lot of hardships. So these systems are also dying down. So I say, is it evening of these pastoral systems now? Will they be there by 2050? I am even doubting 2030 or so. It's not very sure whether they would be there. That's one part of the story. Analysis of the overall scenario, the complexities, uncertainties, and incapabilities, continuing hopes and adaptations. What is it that there you have? Overall, there's a climate change that everybody talks about, but it is not alone. There are 3 other driving forces working in combination with the Himalayan agriculture that's impacting Himalayan agriculture. These 3 things. I think that's exactly the message that I wanted to give today. Emphasizing too much on climate change impact only would be wrong, because it's only 30% or less than 30% in combination. It's the ecological drivers of change, the social drivers of change, and economic drivers of change. Immediately, day to day, I gave you the example, it is the economic drivers of change that drives the farmer, whether he maintains his farming or not, what to do or not, which crops to grow or not. The ecological drivers of change actually help farmer or compel farmer to decide whether such particular cropping combination could be possible or not, whether there's a drought, how do we adjust, and other things. But there also irrigation I need or not, whether I have the capacity or not. Between economics and ecology, the problem is the capacity of the farmers. These are all small farmers. I think that's exactly where we have to see. When we say that we have technologies to manage the impact of climate change, the next question comes whether the farming communities have the capability to really adapt to the change. They are not having that option. The lead question that Virendra Sharma ji these days says is farmers need money for that. Any adaptation would need money. That's exactly why farmers will not be able to adapt to the changes. And when they don't adapt, what will happen? That I'll show next. There is one more very interesting thing. Education-led change in the mountains, whether it's Himachal or Kashmir or Uttarakhand or Northeast. There is one wonderful thing that's happening. And that is that the education, focus on education in these mountains is more than that is in the plains of India. You will have much better English-speaking people in Northeast and remote mountains of Ladakh than if you are somewhere, at least where I am. People find it very difficult to speak in English. Pantanagar or Uttar Pradesh or plains of India are not that much, because the mountain people today are compelled to invest in education, and it's a national service they are doing. They are compelled because they want a better. When I have been talking to farmers for the last 4 years, they gave one thing. They said, we have one generation. Our generation will survive even with the cropping change. Cash crops will not make the family survive in the next generation, because that's not enough. We don't have that. So therefore, this problem would be there. Globally, we are being impacted, and mountains are also. It's a warmer climate. Economic opportunities are tremendous, so therefore there is an encouragement to shift from there wherever the opportunities are. And then of course it's crowded, so naturally there is a compulsion to leave also. So when you combine these things, it takes you further. Also, there are three other very important large forces making an impact on the. It's not only the planet; it's unleashing a kind of a change we have been grappling with. We are not really understanding. It's technological change. It's globalization of things. One good example of globalization you would like to know. Earlier, people would depend on universities and governments to bring change in agriculture. Today, there are farmers in Kashmir. There is a farmer in Shimla Hills itself, very near to Kyari. They fly to Europe, want to see themselves the latest technologies. One of the apple farmers that I project so much. And then it's a whole progressive growers. They said government is not able to give us the kind of technological information support that we need for change. So the capabilities have increased. Now, these are indicators. It's not a general story, but these are indicators of change that you see. The third, new things to adapt to changes. Globalization means opportunities. Opportunity, how it comes? You are eating apples from New Zealand and USA. This provides opportunities for our own farmers. When you pay more, consumers pay more, the farmers think that they will also get more. You remember sometimes when you used to buy Himalayan apples for 30 rupees a kilo, now you spend on apples 200 rupees a kilo also. That has increased the opportunity, and people are now actually flying to US and Europe to get the best varieties. That's how this whole change came, this apple belt going down. Similarly, for adapting to climate change, if farmers had money, even 1 hectare is good enough. At least for this generation, there can be a possibility. That is through changing the whole thing to protected cultivation. But then the capability would be an issue, whether we are able to do that. Simultaneous accelerations, that's in market. That's something going on, and I think this is confusing us in the research, in policy, in interventions. That market forces, Mother Nature, climate change, and Moore's law. Technology is coming faster, cheaper, in which we find ourselves today, and Himalayan land and people, they are not any exception. So the institutions that are actually working for them see that three accelerations are impacting each other. More technologies and cheaper. Now, another good example from the Himalayas, the bullock has gone out. There are no bullock farmers, there are no bullocks, because suddenly you had access to technology and cheaper. And if that happens, so more globalization, you are getting linked to the cash economy, more climate change because you are destroying, we are putting pesticides, fertilizers, and then all kinds of things. So there is a vicious cycle going on, and that will continue. And where does it lead us? I do not know. Shrinking time window for technology change and adaptation to change. I think as Vice Chancellor, I've seen that in universities we are adapted to do research that fructifies after 10 years. Actually, on the ground, the problem is the changes are so fast that you now need technology today. By 5th year, it's gone. By 10th year, definitely it's something else. And similarly, the problem of policy. We are still grappling with monkeys, menace, and abandoned cows and cattle. But then there are so many other things in technology. When you see, we are saying increase the productivity. This language of scientists did not change, and it changed only under pressure from the market when there was a glut of vegetables. There was a glut of food grains and everything. This calls for a kind of a new regime for thinking probably. I would say actually we are into a very different kind of condition also that, I'll skip this, this is solar power and other things. This is also something that many of you would like to remember. Technology changes and human adaptability to, that there is a mismatch. Whether governments or it's Devendra Sharma ji or led by the team and governments or the farmers, you would see our capacity to adjust, adapt. Actually, it's been already surpassed by the technology changes. And this, I am fearing actually, it's good, but the problem is we apply all kinds of solutions as a reaction. They are not systematic, they are not correct, so it leads to unsustainable options. It's not correct. So farmers becoming vulnerable to one big word, dislocation. Dislocation is, अरे यार ये तो बदल गया मैं पीछे रह गया. This is the buzzword with farmers today. अरे वो कमा गया हम पीछे रह गए हम भी ये कर लेते हैं. So there is this mad rush for adapting to change and adopting new ideas, other things without any proper backup. And institutions are far behind. आजकल यूनिवर्सिटियों की हालत बड़ी खराब है. I must admit as agricultural such things. We are far behind because by the time we understand इनको क्या हो रहा है, फिर हम रिसर्च करेंगे. जब उस रिसर्च का सलूशन लेके जाते हैं तो बात अलग होती है. आई एम इन पंतनगर व्हेन आई मेट ए फार्मर आउटसाइड सरदार जी, हम नई वैरायटी दे रहे हैं पीस की. तो आई वाज से केवी कही थे मैंने सरदार जी आपकी समस्या क्या है. तो बादशाह इन्ना पैदा किया कि पी सस्ती हो गई है. असी फैक्ट्री ला दी तां भी सस्ती हो गई. असी तब ग्रो करके डूब गए. Now we want to give new varieties. They say, well, even the old one damn thing is so good, we don't need that. Our problem is supply chains. Now you find globalization. These are kind of वैसे ही crops में हैं और चीज़ों. So dislocation is another buzzword that you must remember when we get confused, and we are confused at all level. I think this is something I have learned after 14 years in universities के आप मेरे से ये पूछेंगे आप कौन सी रिसर्च लीड कर रहे आगे, तो मैं ये कहूँगा मैं भी डिसलोकेशन का विक्टिम हूँ. Okay, mismatch between change and adaptation. The reshaping is taking place faster. This is something that a gathering like you should remember. Actually, changes in the mountains because of social, economic, ecological, they are faster than we have yet been able to reshape our perspectives, thinking and institutions. हम ऐसी meetings में भी नए idea generate कर रहे हैं, उधर बड़ी तेजी से बदलाव आ रहे हैं. So far incapable of thinking right strategies. अभी तक तो बड़ा मुश्किल है. For managing change and help farmers manage the change. You know, 5-6 years ago only Devendra Sharma could think of कि किसानों को पैसे चाहिए. सब गालियाँ देते थे यार कहाँ से खेती तो करता नहीं है, वैसे बोलता किसानों को पैसे दे दो. It took the whole nation actually 6-7 years to understand he was right. अब पता नहीं कौन सी नई चीज़ बेचेंगे क्योंकि वो तो बिक गया. Government this year said farmers need 6,000. He is very right. इन्होंने कहा था कि भाई 6,000 नहीं, जितना खर्च होता उनका, it is 70,000 rupees a year. So whatever they earn, rest the government should pay. That's his formula. By the time government does that, there would be another problem. I am not very sure what it's. Anyway, what do we need? Searching solutions where? Friends, I think I have to be honest. Usual kind of technologies, policies, thinking inside the box is not going to solve the purpose. Outside the box also is a link to that thing, they are also failing. In fact, the kind of situation that you see in the mountains is so complex with three things in different areas that it is very location specific, north, west, high mountain, lower mountain, villages, everything. So actually there should not be any box. Today the fundamental is think without a box and provide solutions for space wise wherever it is possible. I'll wrap up with few things. The study also picked up few, is it that bad? Are there any hopes? Yes. I gave you the changes in 1, 2, 3. PDS and Manrega. What farmers said, I must share with you. When I went around for 4 these years, the farmer said, the people castigate PDS system या मुफ्त में अनाज दे रहे हैं लोगों को. The message from the farmers is कि किसान को बोलो कि जी वो 15 दिन के लिए नहीं पूरे महीने के लिए दे दे. I said, what would be the benefit? Farmers told me the best thing PDS did was that it enabled us to think. Otherwise, we were trapped for growing food. That was our root cause of poverty. When PDS came, so it leveraged our land to put it somewhere for cash cropping. I said, well, what happens if it was for that? If the food was assured for 1 month, in fact, in a way it is assured because Manrega is giving them money to buy. Now, with this kind of thing, you have already seen the change in the Himalayas. So I attribute that to PDS and Manrega, the kind of changes that has happened in mountains. This is the message from farmers. Biodiversity, agrobiodiversity, the international debate, strategic need on one side, we must maintain biodiversity. But what is happening is, actually the whole lot of native crops, they were moving out. They were, not are. They are now coming back. This happens with the changes, with the values. Earlier they went away, nothing, it's for cash crops. Now they are coming back because there is market value. So it is the globalization, it's a market that is deciding what would come back, what would go away. There were also few good things in the Himalayas, glimpses of the future, 3 things I could see there. One was new age farmers, the kind of farmers that you would aspire to live. And across the Himalayas, a girl in agriculture engineering graduate girl in Arunachal Pradesh putting up something for her villagers. They were kiwi growers, finished because 1 rupee a kilo kiwi. गाय भी नहीं खा रही है क्योंकि पीछे बिक नहीं रही थी. And suddenly she put up wine. She said, I am a graduate, I am from this village, I need to do something. Put up a factory. Now famous kiwi wine, organic kiwi wine has come into the market. 2 brothers in Sikkim went to South America to pick up a crop as an alternative to sugar cane. You can have sugar, but then it doesn't make any problems to you. So there is Andean root tuber kind of thing. Himalayas, a farmer in Himachal Pradesh, very near to Kyari, earning this year, he earned 1.5 crores of rupees from just 1.5 hectares of apple orchard. The best possible management. And he has sent me a WhatsApp saying, I am the richest farmer paying 40 lakh taxes because he bought a Range Rover with that money. वो किसान की बात है, बोला पैसा आ गया. मैंने कहा क्या करेगा, इस साल तो मैंने Range Rover खरीदनी है. She has virtually imported and it is with him. His house is wonderful. There is a way to live nicely in the mountains. There is a future also, but you need new age farmers who have the capability to invest in knowledge, in importing technologies, and he doesn't take any government subsidy. नए बच्चों के लिए मैं बता रहा हूँ. If you are somebody who thinks that they can live in the mountains still provide the best possible environment to grow, but then you need very different kind of farmers. Across from Ladakh to others, I gathered actually a lot of people, these new age farmers, the message is very loud and clear. The future farmers will not be the ones who consider agriculture as way of life. The word way of life, agriculture way of life is going out, fading out, it has to go out. For the new generation, it has to be vocation, profession which gives money, a nice living. Second thing that's happening in the mountains is actually the niche. Is it that there any hope for something? Yes. If you were to support, if governments were to support, then they should support developing the niches. I gave the apples. Today, apples are only 15,000 crore economy in the Himalayas. Only if, then we studied the nitty-gritties. If we could make it 90,000 crore economy, is it possible? Land-wise, yes. Climate-wise, now yes, because technologies have come up. It's possible to expand apple area only if there was an upgradation of technology. It meets the requirements of the consumer. You are the power to see that mountains flourish, promise economic well-being, because you have that power of buying. If you buy the apples from 15,000 to 90,000 crores, all the Himalayan farmers would be very rich and happy if that happens. But it's a question of if, because we come innovative in the policy and the technology. If we don't help, then things are gone. Third thing is glimpses of the future, the organic. There are a lot of debates about organic agriculture. This way or that way, for climate, adapting to climate or managing climate, economy, everything, mountain farmers and mountain states will have to go organic definitely, because it will become more economically lucrative, ecologically sensitive, interesting and adaptable, successful. So all regions go for that, and states are actually working very hard. People are ready to buy. The only guys who are not helping are we scientists. I stand accused because scientific community is one nuts which has for the past 15 years done very little to make organic agriculture succeed. You are all ready to buy, but then the technological supports for this one, that is exactly what's making organic agriculture fail, nothing else. We are part of the global ship, and so being part of it, then we have to understand also where. In conclusion, I would like to say 3 driving forces in play, driving forces, not one. This is the message today. It's not only climate, it's social changes and economic changes. Complexity of adaptation to change in the Himalayan farming is another one. Very difficult, it's not simple. Dislocation phenomena, it's underway, so we have to actually understand it. Unprepared institutions and half-baked responses that we guys are responsible. देवेंद्र जी only flags, फिर ये भाग जाते हैं, फिर हम जैसे आते हैं, हम कुछ करते नहीं है, तो इनके सारे सपने फेल करने में हमारा बड़ा योगदान है. Need new thinking for sustainable future farming. That's exactly what is needed today. And this girl I have pictured from Kargil. And she's asking stakeholders of the future, मेरे लिए भी कोई जगह है, मेरा क्या future है, ये आपने decide करना है. If you have 1 minute, I'll go through some slides from China I've taken, because that probably will engineer thinking. Actually हो क्या सकता है? हमारे पड़ोसी getting frustrated from India, I went to China to see how Chinese were doing it. So, and that's I would show to you quickly. New kind of leadership is needed in society. Now you see the old guy, back में टोपी वाला, typically माओ के time का. This girl is MBA and she is the leader of the village, steering economic change. And they are bringing niche-based kind of agriculture. Total reskilling that our Prime Minister is saying. All ladies, women, folk that's in the village is being reskilled. All these people together for new kinds of things. What are those new things? ये देखिए. वैसे हमारे यहाँ भी बांस होता है, बहुत होता है, सबको पता है. What we make out of bamboo is, this is a bamboo village, niche for bamboo. We would make chairs and other things, that's it. Chinese said, no, anything that is there has to give some 20 times more income. Not really. Chair बना के कितना कमाएंगे आप? So ancient wisdom combined with new times and combined in combination with the market, you can bring the change. This is what it is. This picture you are seeing costs you $4,000. It's made out of the thread of bamboo. That is the art of the past Chinese, and these are the same girls being trained, women, married women, the village trained. It takes them 1 month to 2 months to prepare, and this particular association was of 4 or 5 villages. Now it's a big company, online sales, and 150 crore rupees equivalent was the business when I visited 2 years ago. The kind of things that should be, how they have changed agriculture. They say, well, it is a big lafda to have this climate change management. So why not we change totally? Chinese बताते हैं आपको, Indians को सीखना पड़ता है. Now what they have done is, सारी की सारी एग्रीकल्चर को प्रोटेक्टेड कर दो, पानी भी ढंग से दे दो, झंझट से खत्म हो गया. ड्राउट है या ज़्यादा है तो वो है. It is possible to think big. They have done it, why can't we do it? हम ये कहते हैं नहीं, इतने स्केल पे तो हो ही नहीं सकता. It's also possible to think. एक और प्रॉब्लम है हमारी, जब सरकारी पॉलिसीज बनती हैं कि जी बैकयार्ड पोल्ट्री 5 मुर्गे दे दो जी, आपकी इनकम बढ़ जाएगी. फिर थोड़े से मशरूम के वो देंगे जी, एक बैग में लगा लो. We make the farmers survive, not really live. कि भाई ये कहीं 10,000 से ज़्यादा पैसे ना कमाए. This is what the Chinese have done. This is a rice field, big one, whole village growing. जब मशरूम ही ग्रो करने हैं तो ऐसा फ्लड करो कि चंडीगढ़ वाले सिर्फ मशरूम ही मशरूम खाएं. and this guy in the very first season actually earned 5 crore rupees. उसने सारे गांव के राइस फील्ड्स वो लिए हायर किए, सब गांव वालों को उसी पे लगाया, मशरूम ग्रो करके गाड़ी the mega government support was in investments, in subsidy incentives and everything, and science came in. University was attached here to give technology that he succeeds, it doesn't fail, and the farmer paid them. ऐसे भी नहीं, हमारे यहाँ तो मुफ्त का काम होता, फिर हम भी उतना ही करते हैं जितना वो हो, तो ना वो खुश ना हम खुश. Thank you very much, friends. This was all that I needed to share with you. This is what is happening in the mountains. I hope I've set up a kind of a platform now, the stage for discussion. Thanks.
Dr. Tej Pratap.